Hey YouTube, this is Arcus13 again. I am back with my series on this day. I've done a few of these videos already, and the first two, at least I think they were the first two. I know the first one was a video for my sister's birthday, and I'm pretty sure the second one was for my birthday. Now, this is another birthday video. Like this time, it's for my mom. And this is one that I almost forgot about. But to be fair, I did just finish finals week, and I was really focused on get on the on the test and on moving out. It is evidenced by this box, plus other stuff that I'm not going to be showing you, because you don't really need to see that. But anyway, but yeah, so, but yeah, I'm just gonna get it into the video. I derailed my own introduction, but as always, this information was found via the website onthisday.com. Also, as usual, well, this is not an exhaustive list. What I'm going to say is not everything that site has about this day, because it'd be going on for a long time. But this is stuff that I found interesting, and that I am sure my mother would also find interesting. Or else it would be information that I couldn't help but leave out. But so, and since this is not a complete list, I encourage you to check the website out on your own. The link will be in the description. We will begin with one of the earliest events I've had in one of these videos. Like, I think I may have had one that was in like 55 BC, but May 17th, 218 AD marks the seventh recorded passage of what would one day be called Halley's Comet, or Halley's Comet. Skipping forward several centuries, we come to the 1536 execution of Anne Boleyn, the second wife of King Henry VIII. And keeping with the British theme, in 1733, Great Britain passed the Molasses Act, which put tariffs on rum and molasses that were imported from any country other than Britain. And basically, their colony is pretty much had to buy from Britain, because that's the only thing they could afford. 23 years later, in 1756, Britain declared war on France, which sparked the 7 Years' War, or the French and Indian War, depending on who you ask. Excuse me. Another major historical event occurred in 1792, when 24 merchants formed the New York Stock Exchange. On May 17th, 1881, Frederick Douglass was appointed Recorder of Deeds for Washington, D.C. 3 years later, in 1884, Alaska became a U.S. territory. In 1900, L. Frank Baum, I think that's how it's pronounced, published The Wonderful Wizard of Oz on May 17th. And I think we might have we may have a copy of that somewhere back there, or else upstairs. But I'm not sure. And I'm not going to try looking for it right now. May 17th, 1916 marks the day that Britain introduced British summertime, which is now known as daylight savings. And an interesting event that I missed on my first run through of the site, in 1932, the US Congress changed the name of Puerto Rico to Puerto Rico. Now, if you've seen some of my other videos in this series, you know that typically I leave out most of these sports events. I don't really care much for them. And man, like there are a lot of sporting events. However, I couldn't leave out the first televised baseball game that took place on May 17th, 1939. And an event that I couldn't leave out, in 1940, Germany occupied Brussels and started invading France. And in the same vein, 4 years later, in 1944, General Eisenhower set D-Day to be on June 5th. And then a curious event in 1961, Fidel Castro offered to exchange Bay of Pigs prisoners for 500 bulldozers. And I did a little extra digging into this. Castro later upped the request to 28 million in USD. However, he agreed to exchange the prisoners for $53 million in food and medicine. And honestly, this is one of those events that deserves a little extra digging into, but I will not for this video because that's not the point of this video. May 17th, 1969 marks the landing of the Venera 6 probe on Venus. It only lasted for 51 minutes before it succumbed to the hellish environment of Venus, but still it provided data, and that's what it was meant to do. On the 70th anniversary of the publication of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, an anonymous buyer, that is such a hard phrase to say, purchased a pair of the ruby slippers that Judy Garland wore, for $50,000. And the buyer then donated the same slippers to the Smithsonian Institute. May 17th, 1973, the Watergate Committee began its hearings. In an event that my mother is probably more interested in right now, seeing as how she just recently got back from Hawaii, the coldest temperature ever recorded in Hawaii, which was negative 12 Fahrenheit or negative 11 Celsius, was recorded in 1979. In 1984, Marvin Creamer became the first known person to sail around the world without any navigational instruments, which is impressive. It took him 513 days to sail, and I just wonder how he managed to do it. This is another event that I might do some extra digging into. And now, apologies to both my mother and the YouTube censors for the profanity that I am about to use. In 1990, the World Health Organization took homosexuality off of its list of mental illnesses. I'm just gonna let that sink in for a while. Now, what the mental illness? I can understand why some people are homophobic, whether there's like a religious reason or if it's just due to the fact that is just not the norm. But a mental illness, and I am so glad that they realized that it isn't one. But still, the fact that it was considered one is just so... Anyway, let's get back to the list. In a similar vein, on May 17th, 2004, Massachusetts became the first U.S. state to legalize same-sex marriage. Remarkable amount of progress considering that just 14 years prior it was considered a mental illness. Another event that probably shouldn't be left out, like, I know, my mother is probably not that big of a... It's probably not that big of an event for my mother, or for me, for that matter, but for the rest of the viewers, or as the rest of the viewers, you would probably be interested to know that at May 17th in 2009, and was as the public release of Minecraft. And finally, 2 years ago in 2020, Barack Obama criticized the U.S. government's, let's face it, lack of handling of the COVID pandemic. While other countries in the world were getting in like second waves of COVID, I don't think America got its second wave until the Delta variant. But that is it for the major historical events. Now we're going to move on to the birthdays. If you, like my mother, were born on May 17th, you share a birthday with John Penn, who was one of the guys who signed the Declaration of Independence, Edward Jenner, the father of Western immunology, Cool Papa Bell, who is considered to be one of the fastest men to ever play baseball, Bob Saget, seriously, and Craig Ferguson. And that does it for today's video. If you liked it, be sure to like and subscribe and all that YouTube jazz. Be sure to check out some of the other videos in this series, and maybe even some of my other series. And check back for future videos. I will see you then.